So I got 10,000 subscribers, and I don't really know how to process that, but I've got some unpainted models, and I've got a bunch of questions from you, so I'm gonna do a little hobby hangout Q&A. How's that sound? Great, let's go. So my desk is clearly not set up for hobbying right now. It is set up for recording music because I'm doing my Goblin music video. So I'm probably just gonna end up doing some simple base coats while we chat and I answer your questions. So let's do one for my Patreon. Art Tracy, my friend Rob, asks, you've always had a knack for using your models or quickly fabricated models in D&D campaigns to awesome effect. It would be cool to get a tour of some of your old models and the memorable ways you've used them in your campaigns. So, you'd think because I am a mini maker, a model maker, that my D&D games would look like my videos do, but that historically has not been the case. When I was DMing in person more, the maps and models that I used were usually made that day. So more often than not, they looked like this. Just cardboard and hot glue, quickly fabricated models to get the idea on the table. If I had a few hours or a day to prepare, I would do something really fast and it would look something like this. This model is made of tinfoil and tape and it was painted with nail polish. This was the boss queen insect from one of the first arcs of my long-running home game. It is crazy to look back at some of these things. This was the very first junk build I did, this kind of Walker AT-AT inspired mech. And when you compare it to my Star Wars ship or my Studio Ghibli robot I just made, I've improved a lot. My first D&D game inspired me to start sculpting again, and so I sculpted the long-running villain of that campaign, Karme, the Naga. She was something that my players really feared, and when I finally had them fight her, they annihilated her in like one round. As friends visit or I do more one-shots in person, I'm trying to use more of the things that I've made and design the D&D encounters around them. But in the past, I've just thought of an idea and made the visuals with the time I had, which was usually an hour or two. And those games, compared to the games with fully detailed maps, are just as fun. Flaming Cushion asks, are there plans for any small goblins in Goblands? Yes, I love the idea of small goblins. I love in Whoville that there are Whos of all sizes, including like teeny tiny ones that drive tiny cars. I would love to make some like microscopic goblins, which will be very difficult at this scale, but I think it would be a fun challenge, and I just love the idea of a goblin with a little goblin on its shoulder. Another one from my Patreon, my friend Mal asks, this isn't a question, but I want to see your childhood sketches make an appearance, please. The more awkward, the better. On my Patreon, I mentioned that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a YouTuber. My friends and I had a stunt/comedy channel, and I had my own ukulele YouTube channel where I wrote original songs and I did covers of popular songs. It was era appropriate, and you cannot find it, I promise you. As I was visiting my parents' house, I went through some old sketchbooks and I found a song I had written, and at the top there was a note that said, "This one is gonna get me found on YouTube." The song was a love song about board games, and it is too embarrassing. I will show you the note, but I will cover up all the lyrics. But in those sketchbooks were also pictures of Pokemon and monsters and knights, and I love all that stuff more now than I did as a kid even, and my goals of being a YouTuber are still the same, and I think my younger self would be really proud of me. Arden Makes Things asked, is there another army you'd like to explore, and would it also be set in Goblands? So, I have no immediate plans to start another army, but I have had thoughts on other side projects. One thing I'd like to explore is redesigning other Warhammer armies, things that I don't like Ogre Kingdoms and Beastmen. There are elements of those armies that I really like, but the core units I think are really boring, and I'd like to take a shot at redesigning those. Oh, we got a baby. Erased Her Head asks, will we see more non-greenskins in Goblands? Would be cool to see some contrast. I think not. I want goblins to be all goblins. In fact, I've kind of decided that I'm not going to have any orcs in my army. They will just be tall goblins, lanky goblins, small goblins, and then monsters like trolls and giants and all that. But I don't really want any other humanoids in Goblins. But I would love to fight against a non-goblin army for sure. Which also brings me to another question. Admiral Akbar93 asks, did you ever manage to get a game of Old World in? No, I have not. I have not played Warhammer yet. I have not used this army yet. I plan to. I've had a lot of offers. To me, the army's not done yet. I know I could play with it as is, but I will play with it eventually. But to me, I like using Warhammer as a creative prompt to make things, and the community side and the collecting and making side of the hobby is my hobby more so than playing is. I will play eventually, but right now I'm perfectly content being a fake gamer girl. I gotta distract myself or I'm gonna get emotional. Muddy Paw Terrain asks, what's been the best part of making the channel? I've made things for a very long time. I did music, I did theater, I did fine art, I did illustration, and I've never gotten so much support for my work, and it really means the world to me. I think in all the years I was making stuff, I never really had a dream. For a while, I think my dream was to make a living making art, and when I achieved that, I realized I was still completely unsatisfied. And now, with this channel, I actually have a dream and something I want to work towards, and it has changed everything. I want to do this for a living. I want to keep making videos. I want to sell minis, and I want to go to conventions, and I am so close to making this job sustainable, and it makes everything worth it. I finally have something that I'm willing to do the boring stuff for, like sending emails and reaching out to people. I think that is the main difference, and something that you need if you want to be an artist. You need to be willing to do the boring stuff to achieve your dreams, and to do that, you need a dream. My friend Bart of the Realm asked, what is one medium you have always wanted to use but never did? For like 10 years, I've wanted to try mold and casting stuff, and I'm just too afraid for some reason. I don't know why. Shrunken Wizard Head asked, do you think you'll ever cast and sell your own miniatures? I hope so. Cree asked, Goblin Minis win. On my list. Next thing I'm gonna do after Goblin music is learn to 3D sculpt. Cyan Lafay Artists asked, when is the Ramshackle collab happening? The mold is made of the mini, so soon. Conjured Craft asked, who is your least favorite YouTuber and why is it Conjured Craft? You know what you did. Goblin Girl Studio asked, what would you want to make if you had no limitations of money, time, or crafting knowledge? I would love to make a short or feature-length movie in the style of practical effects 80s fantasy, like Willow, The Princess Bride, Labyrinth, and get all of my friends involved and pay them for their work. Undead Mole 6809 asked, what's your favorite D&D encounter or scene from the games you've played? There's too many to count, but one that comes to mind is I ran a nightmare episode where all the players were stuck inside of one of the players' dreams. At the time, the player was really afraid of their patron, so the whole dream sequence was about their idea of what their patron could be in this nightmare scene. I made terrain of the town they were in, and halfway through the combat, I turned the terrain on its side, and now the sides of the buildings were the new roofs, and the player whose nightmare it was fell right in front of their patron in this horrifying moment, and she said she almost cried, so that is one of my proudest moments as a DM. Gear on Acid wrote a long message but basically asked, as a professional artist, do I have any advice for someone pursuing a career in art? I do just want to say, working as an artist is really hard, and I think that it is totally valid to pursue a life of art without having to pursue a career in art. If you are trying to pursue a career in art, I would say find the kind of art space you want to be in and then live in it. If you want to be a fine artist, you have to be at the galleries all the time. You have to be talking to other artists and gallery owners all the time. If you want to be an online artist, you gotta be online. You gotta be posting all the time. You gotta be involved in the community. If you want to table at conventions or fairs or farmers markets, you gotta be tabling all the time and talking to people all the time. Art is more about selling yourself than it is about the quality of art that you make. And it took me a really long time to figure that out. And Mossy Goblin 3369 asked, what's your favorite fairy in the Spiderwick Chronicles? Well, I've been rereading the Spiderwick Field Guide, and I think the guy I always come back to is Shocker the River Troll. I am who I am, and I love trolls. Faraway Pictures asks, can you tell us more about the environment you live in? Part of me finds it very strange that so much fantasy is coming out of a city rather than a shack in the middle of nowhere. I hate to break it to you, but I do live in a city. I live and work in Montreal, and I am from Halifax, Nova Scotia. So I'm very much a city boy, but I was always playing pretend. So in a way, I've always lived in a fantasy world. So that's it. Thanks for hanging out with me and helping me get some minis painted. Thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. I'm just getting started. If you like this more vloggy style video, let me know in the comments and I'll do some in between bigger projects. I've got a lot of big projects in the works, a lot of collaborations, maybe a sponsor. And I feel like I've got so much momentum, and hitting 10K now just feels like I'm doing something right. Thank you so much for subscribing, for your support, for following me on Patreon, or just leaving a nice comment. It all means so much, and I am so excited to see where this channel takes us next. I'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, you want a mini reveal? Yeah, they look horrible. Not even close. Turns out I can't actually paint and talk at the same time. Bye!